Okay, Bill Donigan, Donigan Painting in Syracuse, New York here today, fixing a hole that I put through my entry hallway sheetrock when my doorstop came off a few months ago. I just got around to fixing it and I figured I'd share a video with anyone who has a similar type problem. Now this is called the California patch, and it can work with holes that are bigger than this. In this case, this is about 2 inches, 2 by 2. If you have something bigger, the same thing applies. You're just going to need a bigger hole, basically. So to get started, some things you're going to need to do this are sheetrock. Here I have a couple pieces of 1/2 inch sheetrock. That's commonly what's used in houses. If you have holes or a hole this size, you're not probably going to want to go out and buy a 4 by 8 sheet, but you can find 2 by 3 sheets in the painting sections at big box stores for a few bucks. So grab one of those, and then you're going to need some basic tools to do this stuff. You're going to need a straight edge to cut your sheetrock. Now you can use this type, or you can use a speed square that I have here. To cut it, you're going to need a utility knife to do the cutting on this hole and to cut your sheetrock. You're going to need a pencil and a measuring tape to measure out the hole and the sheetrock replacement, and to measure out your sheetrock piece that you're going to cut. You're going to need a couple putty knives, some joint compound, which is down here. You're going to need a drill with a Phillips bit tip, and then you're going to need some drywall screws that are at least 1 inch. These are 2 inches, but they'll do. So here's basically what you need, and then you're going to need some pieces of wood that you can put behind the wall in the hole that we're going to cut in order to hold the new sheetrock. So these are going to kind of go behind there like that. And then I'm going to screw the new sheetrock into these. Now this is just some window molding that I had laying around in my garage that I cut, and I'm going to use here. It's good because it's not a soft wood like cedar, so get something that the screw is going to catch on good. So what you want to start doing first is getting a square around your hole. So with this one, or any hole for that matter, you're going to want to go about 1 inch out, so that you get a really clean cut and you got a little room to work with. So you can grab something like your sheetrock screw box and draw your line around. So now you have your square. Next thing you're going to do is grab your utility knife and cut this out. You want to score it first, so you're going to go along the line you just made. There's your first score, down the side, across the bottom, and then down your other side. So now you have it scored. So from here, you're just going to keep going into this and put pressure on the knife. You don't have to put a ton of pressure on it, but just enough where it's going in little by little until you get a clean box or square here that we outlined, so you can put in some new sheetrock. So I'm going to do this now. And you'll feel it once the knife goes through. You want to have as much resistance, but you want to get it clean as you can all the way down so the two sides are done. I'll do the top. There you have it. That's that. Clean it up. Get rid of stuff that's floating around inside, because it'll throw off your wood that you're going to put in there, because it's pressing against the paper backing from the sheetrock. So get that out of there. You can just push it in, rip it off. Okay, so clean this up nice, get rid of any snags that you might have there. And now you have your hole. From here, you're going to grab your wood. In this case, like I said, it was a 2 by 2 hole. Now it's about 3 inches by 3 inches. So I cut out like some 5-inch pieces of wood. And you're going to stick them behind the wall, flat side, if you're using molding, door molding like I am. And about maybe 2 inches off from the side, so that when you put your sheetrock in there, you have something to screw it to. So since I cut this longer than the hole by about 1.5 inches or 2 inches on the top and bottom side here, you just stick it behind here, like I just did. Okay, and you're gonna need to be able to multitask when you're doing this because you don't want to drop the wood in there. And it may happen, and if you do, just be ready to, cut another piece and go at it again. So grab a couple of your screws, and you can even start them before you have the wood in there, so you're not trying to put a screw on your drill and just do a whole juggling act. I've done it, and this is the best way to do it. So you know your piece of wood is going to be a couple inches longer on each side. So I started these in. I'm going to just line it up, make sure that I got enough below it and on top of it, and grab my drill again. Now secure it. Okay? You're going to want to leave some room so you can get the other piece of wood in. Don't put the wood in so far that you're covering the whole hole. You just want enough so that when you put the sheetrock in, you have, I said 2 inches, an inch or so to catch the screw for the sheetrock on. So let's secure these now. You're going to have to put a little pressure, pull on it a little bit so that when the screw hits it, it sinks in. And it's just sunk a little bit there so that you can cover it with joint compound. So that's in there pretty good right now, and that's just one screw. So do the next one. Hold on to it just in case, because you don't want it to move. Okay, so there's one. Grab your other piece of wood, 2 more screws. And do the same thing you just did on the other side. About an inch in, get it started so you're not standing there doing the juggling act. Okay, grab your other piece of wood, get it in there. In this case, I have some insulation back here, so if you have the same thing going on, you're just going to have to work it in there a little bit. Okay, like I said, you want to leave some room from doing the other side. You only need about an inch to catch the screw on with the sheetrock. So there's an inch, give or take. I'm going to make sure that there's enough wood above for this to catch where I put it. And now below, just checking with my fingers, pull on it a little bit. You don't have to yank on it, just pull it so it's securely against the wall on the back side and screw it in. Sink it in a little bit so that when you put the joint compound over it, it'll just be nice and flush. Do the same thing on the bottom. Okay, great. So there you have your secure wood. That isn't going anywhere. It's not newspaper. It's not clothing. It's not one of those flimsy mesh wall patches that I've seen used where you end up with a mound. With doing it this way, you're going to end up with it flush, which is what you want, so that you can just fill the little crack that's going to be left here and paint it. So now you're going to grab your sheetrock and measure out the size of the hole you have here. I think I said it's 3 by 3, 3.5 by about 3. So grab your sheetrock, measure that out. Mark it. Grab your knife. If you got a speed, use that. Okay, so roughly there you have it. So you got your piece of sheetrock cut, you grab a couple screws. You're not going to need more than that. You don't need to overdo it. Screw it in to the wood that you put on each side. Center it. That's probably the best way to do it because it'll keep it held down evenly. You want to sink the screw a little bit so that it'll cover with joint compound. I'll do the same thing on the other side. There you go. So this is actually just a little bit below the surface, which is what you want because then you can build up the joint compound. So there's that. You grab your putty knives or putty knife, open your joint compound, grab some joint compound. When you're putting this on, you want to make sure you're pushing it in there good because you want to get it in there. So go over it a couple times. Just practice doing this. I keep it nice and straight, and then get off the excess. Now in this case, I'm probably going to have to come back, and float this out another time just because it'll shrink a little bit and you might have to do the same thing. More than likely you will. So there you go. Okay, so that's really it. Once this is set up, the first time around, what I like to do just to keep it really clean is I'll take a damp sponge, and I don't mean soaking wet, but just dampen this. And joint compound's water soluble, so you can just go around and wipe this off and it'll come right off. And just don't wipe off too close to your edge where you put the joint compound in. Tomorrow, I'll come back, hit it again with joint compound like I just did, and like you'd have to do. And then do the same thing with a sponge, and then just grab, I like to use sanding sponges because that's what I use all the time, like 120 grit, and just smooth it out. And the way you figure out how it's smooth or flush is give it a little sand and don't, grind on it. Go lightly, and then put your hand across it. If you feel any bumps or anything like that, or any valleys, you're going to need to fill it in again with a little more joint compound to get it that perfect flushness. After that, in this case, I have some paint left from painting this hallway a year or so ago. I'm just going to hit it, I'll touch it up, and that's it. So there's your California patch. If you have any questions, you can call me or email me on my website at www.doniganpainting.com, or you can call me at 315-313-3254, and I'll get right back with you. So I hope that helps you out for you weekend DIYers. There you have it, California patch. Thanks for stopping by.